Well, good afternoon. This is Midweek Miscellanies from Brian Mann, and I am a minister and writer in Richlands, North Carolina. I'm so glad that you've tuned in for this moment, and I pray that it will be upbuilding to your faith. I have recently wrote a post on the issue of the joy that we should have in our faith, and I try to, of course, not use the word should. It's not a matter of producing a sort of guilt. If you notice that when we say that word should, it immediately connotes a certain level of a weight upon the person hearing it. And so we don't want to do that. When it comes to the faith, the way that Paul the apostle looked at faith is he put it almost, if not exactly, synonymous with joy. And that tells us something about what the Christian faith involves. It must involve something where we do not uh, just simply believe it clinically, but we enjoy it in a very active way that does something more than just fill our minds, but it affects our souls. And when I say affects, I mean affects, as in affections. This was the faith that stirred the nation that I live in, the United States of America, with the likes of those like Jonathan Edwards during days when revival broke forth in the land. And it's debatable in regards to the revival, if it, again, not being as lasting as we might hope. Some questioned that revival and still do. There's nothing questionable about the fact that Christianity has indeed spread throughout the world and continues to, and from the Bible standpoint, will do so increasingly to the end of time, insofar as God's promise in His Word is that the government rests upon the shoulders of the Lord of the universe who reigns now and will come again to judge the living and the dead. In the recent week, I have been able to uh, enjoy the opportunity to pull up an old project on the Heidelberg Catechism that I've called a Shepherd's Catechism. And I guess it's been 15 years now since I revisited that particular catechism. And I'm working on editing through that with anticipation to publish it. It was ready for publishing in the past, um, but due to circumstances, I decided not to do so at the time. And we may be back in the same boat again, who knows? Because what I've experienced in my editing process on the positive side is that I have greatly enjoyed working through those questions and answers and endeavoring to make them more precise and more um, uh, fitting for a contemporary audience. So that's the positive side. The negative side is there's something about catechisms that does seem, and I'm using a word that just heard this week used on another subject, clinical. Just seems very kind of like you're in a cold surgical room, and um, it's very robotic and very. It seems lacking, and I think that's probably a big part of why catechisms, though there are certainly revivals in the idea of using them, they lose they lose something in terms of the warmth that people really desire of the faith. And I'm not sure they communicate best in their media. Um, the thing that I'm discovering is so essential to our faith, and that is the actual enjoyment of it. So, so this morning I spent some time really. working back through a question and answer first in the catechism, and out came forth a um, not a catechism question, but the result of what I posted on my Substack is actually more of a statement that hopefully encourages the reader to more deeply imbibe um, the Nicene faith. Now, when I say the Nicene faith, it is that is based on the Nicene Creed, which is a little more robust. Well, let's just say it's a lot more robust than the Apostles' Creed. The Apostles' Creed is wonderful, and it is, from what I can tell, what every catechism, whether it be Protestant or Catholic, is based on. I did a search to find if there was anyone who's ever done a Nicene catechism or a catechism based on the Nicene Creed. I found one that was just very straightforward. It looks like by a church or a small organization. Um, no offense to that organization or person who did that, but it was, very, maybe like the Baptist Catechism, just pretty straightforward question answer of very obvious things. I think you could pretty much just read a confession and get that, or just read the Nicene and get that. Um, One thing you can't do is produce something like the Heidelberg, which is just so pastorally warm that was meant to unite people and bring a lot of peace even between nations. That's a hard thing to produce. Nonetheless, I don't see anything out there. There may be something, but I'm missing it. Google and all the technology out there tells me there's really not anything. They did say the Catholic Church had one. When I went to research it, it just isn't there. When I looked at the actual questions, they look based off of the Apostles' Creed very, very clearly. So I thought, what if I took what I was working on in in terms of revision of Heidelberg, revision of the Heidelberg, and I adapted the Nicene. I'm probably just telling you a lot of background info it's not necessarily super super important, but it does help to know how I got to where we'll be here in a moment. When I did that, I found that the Nicene offered to me a segue into um, joy and the faith, and here's how. I went from stating something along the lines of "What must I believe?" or "What must you believe?" Um, as a Christian, to what you must enjoy, to what what I can enjoy as a Christian um, upon believing it. So, so that's the thing. And let me read some of the questions I just kind of worked through. How, if I did this, would it be more rich in theology? Could I offer something a bit more concise than a full catechism? Maybe just a part where we're just looking at the Nicene, and could I do it in such a way that artistically it would be set forth to actually really build people up in the faith? I mean, would it really? Is there a possibility to write something that is deeply theological, that doesn't come forth as much as a how-to book as to something that is enjoyable like a story, but yet it's um, more in the genre of statements of faith? What if I took the faith and belief that Paul described in Philippians? Um, I work together with you for your joy, your progress, and your joy in the faith. What if we could capture that, and even more explicitly, Second Corinthians 1:25 says, "Not that we lord it over your faith, but work with you for your joy." What if we could, excuse me, take faith and joy, bring them together like Paul looks at them synonymously, And what if we could produce something that doesn't lord it over people's faith, but actually brings people joy when they realize what the faith is? So here's a sample. I picked one question. It's the more robust question that I've worked on. And it says this. When I and I made it, I changed it from being a question to a statement. So we've moved out of the catechism realm and we moved into the faith realm, but also I think with a little more work, maybe we can move into something that has the attraction of a story. There was a joke this week that came to mind in my home with homeschoolers that C.S. Lewis stated, and that was that, in short, that a lot of people, people are always asking for more stories, but you know what they're not asking for? More essays. And I thought that's pretty true. Nobody, I mean, I'm sure there's always one, but nobody's really out there saying, I want to read more essays. No, people find something very, very enjoyable about stories. And it seems that, the Bible tells a story, and it's not a bad thing that in our generation right now, stories really go a long way. And what I'm reading to you now, it isn't a story, but I think it could lend towards the feel of something very much of a narrative. Well, let's just hear. When I believe in one God, the Father, the Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible, I can enjoy. That's what I wrote. And I want to make the argument that I think it can give the feel of a story because it brings you into it existentially. The way that R.C. Sproul spoke of how we're to read the Bible, and that is we're to get into the Bible, we're to get ourselves in there in terms of the experience of seeing ourselves there. For example, like um, this week coming, I'm working on a sermon that deals with Hezekiah, and the major point I endeavor to make is that we are all Hezekiahs at best. It takes it from simply observing kind of this bad part of Hezekiah's life and realizing we got to see ourselves in there. And of course, there's some hope brought because the reason that Hezekiah fails in this kind of last chapter of his life, it seems, um, has a gospel purpose and has something glorious. And so we will. I'm going to be working on that for Sunday. But the point being is that reading the Bible existentially or preaching existentially and getting us into the book so as to catch the drama of it, feel it, know it, and ultimately enjoy it is vital. And this question turned into a statement. When I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth and of all things visible and invisible, this is something that can cause us joy. That's the point I'm making. The Nicene Creed that really defines Trinitarian orthodoxy for both Protestants and Catholics alike can bring us joy in the Christianity we profess. It has the ability to stir our hearts when the I should say, when we personally, individually enter into this wonderful story of faith told by Nicene. Why Nicene? Well, it's the 1700th anniversary, and we happen to pick that up for our study this year in Advent for the church. And so it just happened to be at hand. I'm using Philip Carey's book on the Nicene Creed, and it's excellent. And so I consulted that as I'm working through what I already knew, what I already had in this. So, as I should say, without further ado, let's look at the statement Well, I can enjoy what? I can enjoy what first, that the one eternal God of Israel, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. Let's begin there. We're talking about God the Father. And the introduction of God the Father into the equation here in the beginning of our faith, especially as being the same God who was the God of Israel, is skip down in the question, skip down in the answer, um, is for Christ's sake also my God and my Father. Christianity did not come on the scene and create a new religion. The book of Acts testifies very clearly it wasn't that. Christianity was saying what what real worship of Yahweh always was. It was, um, we could say, founded in the old Judaism, not the Judaism today, but the old Judaism. And Paul, you can see labor through the book of Acts, was laboring to show not that Christianity was a new religion, but that Christianity was the true religion, and that the professing Jews of the time were not holding to the true religion. Paul was arguing how to be a real Jew, how to be a true one. And that's why later he speaks about that we are all true Jews. Christians are true Jews because of our faith in Jesus Christ. That's what it is to be a true Jew. We are adopted by the Father in heaven through the sacrifice of the Son and the application of the Holy Spirit. Very Trinitarian. In the center here, we must understand about God the Father, that He created everything ex nihilo, which means out of nothing. He created heaven and earth. And here's what's very important about Nicene that makes it different from the apostles. It goes further and says, everything invisible, invisible and visible. That can be a tongue twister. So we can maybe work on how we say that in here. But he created all things visible and invisible. And what does that mean? Well, it includes the angelic host, and he upholds likewise and governs the same by his eternal counsel and providence. So there's nothing, there's no one, there's no creature, and no angel that is above God the Father, who made all things out of nothing. And so when I believe that God the Father, Almighty Maker of heaven and earth, both of all things visible and invisible, when I believe that, I can enjoy these things. And it's on Him. I rely entirely. I'm relying on the Creator, the Maker of all things, visible and invisible. And it removes all the doubt about the providence of things in life. I can trust Him. I can trust Him to provide everything necessary for my soul and my body. And further, even the evils that He is so, because He's in control. He's in control of Satan and all. He's in control of all angels and all, even fallen ones. He's in control of everything. Therefore, even when He permits evil to come my way, the way it's stated here, He'll make whatever evils He sends me in this valley of tears to turn out to my advantage. And most Christians can quote immediately right there, Romans 8:28. But the point is that we do live in what the Heidelberg confessors called the Valley of Tears. And I didn't take that phrase out because it's a picture. It's a picture of the sorrowful and miserable world we live in. And that doesn't mean we don't have a very truly optimistic, on the basis of reality, hope that the world will be redeemed. Um, It just accepts the reality is the world we live in has been negatively impacted by sin, and therefore there's a lot of things that we go through that bring us tears. Now, there's a gospel to dry up those tears and to bring us great joy, but we don't cease to enjoy the Lord through the midst of this valley. In fact, there's a lot of things that grow very deeply in this world, in our lives, because of the Lord's great immensity and love for us. And that's really the last thing that's stated in this. And you can look at it on the Substack on the post today. He is both willing and able to do it, being Almighty God and a faithful Father. And those are two requirements, really, to have a lot of joy. And that is that if God is our Father, if I could say God is my Father, what kind of Father is He? Well, He's a faithful Father. He's a willing Father. He desires to bless me, and He not only has the will to do it, because I'm His child in His Son, Jesus Christ, by faith. Uh, because again, remember, I believe, and therefore I can enjoy. And that's really a profound statement, isn't it? I believe, and therefore I can enjoy. I have a Father in heaven, and you do as well, dear believer. I have a Father in heaven who is not only willing to bless and to send all things my way for my good, but also He's able to do it. And both of those things cap off the reality that I believe, and therefore I can enjoy the Lord. You really can't enjoy the Lord unless you believe. But if you do believe, then there's a lot to enjoy about God. And what I've set before you here is just a little bit of that. It's just the start of it. It's just what it means to be a Christian, a child of God who has a Father willing and able to bless him or her. Well, I I hope to be able to share some other things with you. Um, I really want to get to work on some historical fiction again, and I also want to be able to share some memoir writing with you. About to do some things on that, Lord willing, soon. And as I work on an exercise in my writing group called The Habit, I'm very grateful for that. They've spurred me on a lot. A lot of the uh, writing that I'm putting out here is just because of a lot of encouragement. You know, they do definitely give you some courage to write. And thank you for those of you who support this Substack through prayer and financially. And uh, I hope that you see it as um, something that has valuable content always that really does make a difference positively in your lives by reading it and by tuning into broadcasts like this. Again, thank you for those who tuned in. We'll try to get this put up, Lord willing, after I review it. And I don't always put them all up, but I hope this will look good on the video and be acceptable to put up. And again, if you're not in a church, look for a good gospel believing church for the Lord's Day. We're excited where we're at to be baptizing some people this coming Sunday. And I'll be in Isaiah chapter 39. That'll be broadcast live this Sunday. Hope you can tune in for that. Again, if you like this broadcast, please leave a comment, like it, subscribe. Please, if you're not a paid subscriber, consider that. It's a small amount per month or per year. And you can also become part of the Heartwood Circle, which gives a little significantly more amount each year that really inspires this writer to this writer and minister to write from, as I'm saying, a place of faith and fiction and memory. So please support this, and please also, though, above all, honor the Lord with your life today, and grow in the encouragement and the joy that He has for you in the kind of things we just talked about. God bless you, and thank you so much.